Hi guys, I'm Arese. Welcome to another episode of The Bridge, Africa's #1 financial literacy show, brought to you by Business Day. This season, we're shaking things up a bit. We're going to be interviewing millennial business leaders and celebrities and talking to them about the business models and financial decisions behind their successful brands. Our guest today is Tokini Peterside, the founder and director of ArtX. Stay tuned. Hi Tokini.
Hi Arese.
Thank you so much for coming on The Bridge.
Thank you for having me.
So this show is basically set out to explain to a millennial audience the business models and financial decisions behind successful brands like ArtX.
Okay.
So you've been really successful in, formalizing the art world or the art market in Nigeria. You've created your own platform that has been super successful since 2016.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, sure. So ArtX is the first international art fair in West Africa. And what we've basically done is create a marketplace, but a marketplace for the very best art from around the continent, including Nigerian art. Now, we have been catalysts for the art sector here, but the truth is what ArtX has done is build on a trajectory of growth that was being experienced in the Nigerian market over the past, I'd say, 10 years. So 10 years ago, auction houses were launched. There were many more galleries springing up. ArtX has now come into the market to help, I guess, move things to the next level.
Modernize it a bit, would you say?
Well, I would say open it up, actually. I would say take the art sector from being a space that only the very affluent who can afford to buy art can participate in, open it up to a vast audience who are very curious and want to actually see and experience the best work from around the continent.
Amazing.
But then also provide a platform for the international world to come in to engage with what's happening in the Nigerian and African sector.
Okay, let's first of all talk about artists in Nigeria.
Sure.
So you've created this platform that's a marketplace for them to sell their work. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you told your parents that you wanted to be an artist, they'd probably strangle you because it meant that you wanted to faff about and be poor.
Yes.
But now things are changing. There are people like Ben Enwawu who have sold their paintings for £1.2 million, approximately.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for young Nigerian artists who maybe want to come on your platform so they can make their art more viable or profitable?
Okay. I'd start by saying actually that with the example you gave of Ben Enwawu, for example, when he was an artist, a very prolific, prominent artist in Nigeria in the 60s and 70s, he was living very well. Ben Enwawu had the best of art educations. He lived in Ikoyi. He's very famous for having sculpted the Queen of England. The Queen of England actually sat for a portrait, and then he sculpted her. So in his time in Nigeria, it was a very prestigious thing to be an artist. And what then happened is just that when we then had the periods of military decline and our economy declined, as with all sectors, the arts and creative sector also went into decline. And so you're right in saying that 10, 15 years ago, it would have been seen as a risk by many parents, but there were still many at that time who supported their children, who displayed at that time just very clear, phenomenal talent. Today, it is so much easier actually for the young millennial artist.
Because you have so many platforms.
There's so many platforms, but also they have so many examples to point out. In fact, this conversation between parent and child that you've described is one of the many motivations behind launching ArtX, is to show parents across the board in Nigeria.
This is a viable career.
That who are the parents of talented children. Because when your child is sitting there drawing and scribbling
every
day and clearly this demonstrates great talent, as a parent, I imagine that you want to know that there's a future for them. So ArtX exists to create that platform through which everyone is welcome to come and see what is possible as an artist.
So let's talk about art as an investment.
Sure.
So all over the world, people buy art for say £10,000, and in a few years the artist blows and they can sell it for £500,000. So in Nigeria, if I was like a young collector or I wanted to start becoming a collector, how do I go about it? What kind of price points am I looking at, and what kind of artists should I be keeping an eye on?
Okay, so
that might blow in 5 years.
So that's the thing. If you're thinking about artists that might blow in 5 years, then it means that from day one, you've got to be buying serious art. So the distinction is, you know, there's market art, the stuff that you get at Lekki Market, which is pretty to put on your wall. You will never know who the artist is. There's some scribble in the corner. You can't find him tomorrow. You look online, he's not there. And then there's serious art, whereby these are artists who've gone to art school, or artists who have first degrees in other disciplines like architecture, but have decided they want to be professional career artists. So I think the trick to what I'm even saying is, first of all, start by doing your research. Recognize that there are career artists, and then there are sort of the market, the street artists. And if you ultimately want to build a portfolio, then it's to buy seriously from day one.
So how do you know? How do you find them?
So I was even going to say that buying seriously doesn't mean you even have to start expensive, because the truth is the young artist of today is the global artist of the future. So you can buy works for 100,000 naira, for 150,000, 200,000. There are galleries like Arese, Nico, that go out of their way to show the works of young artists from time to time. We even just talked about social media. There are artists that you can reach out to directly when you see how their career is moving on, and you can buy from them directly in that way. Then another way as well is to start visiting gallery shows, is to go and see the exhibitions the galleries put on, because then you get to discover a broad range of artists that exist, and then you get a sense of, first of all, who to follow, but secondly, what your personal taste is. Because I've always fundamentally believed that we shouldn't come into art just to buy it for investment's sake. I think we should fundamentally buy what we love. I've been buying art for 10 years.
And then I guess hope that what you love is something
that you sell it. So I've been buying art for a decade. I have never sold anything. I don't think I ever will. But you do get a lot of satisfaction when an artist you bought for, say, 400 or 500,000 naira is now selling works for 20,000 pounds, 30,000 pounds, and you know that, okay, this was a good investment. You can pat yourself on the back, and if one day you're ever cash strapped, you can take it to an auction house.
Do you ever get worried about leaving those things on your wall?
Well, so there's two things to worry about. First of all, air conditioners in this country that are always giving you one drama or the other and leaking onto your artwork. So I've learned the hard way, no artwork near air conditioners. But then there's insurance. There are companies like Leadway, for example, they do brilliant art insurance, and you can have a very personal valuation done, and then you insure your artwork, and at least you can sleep better at night.
That's amazing. So let's go to a few personal finance type questions now. When did you make your first million naira, and how?
So my first million naira was actually in my youth corps year. I did my youth corps between 2008 2009. It definitely was not from the company I worked for, because I think I got 25,000 naira a month or something like that.
Was this a side hustle?
It was a side hustle.
Okay.
So I launched a business called Fashion Auction House, where I wanted to basically create like a, almost like I was like a Robin Hood, you know. I would go to very affluent women, take their used designer bags and shoes, and then I would sell them to my peers, other fellow youth corpers. And after the first series of events, I made about 1 million naira, and I was very proud of myself. I won't tell you what I did in a million naira, but I made 1 million naira, and I thought, okay, this is good. And then from there, I moved on to a career in marketing, and then the millions sort of started to come. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about your biggest money mistake. So one blunder that you've done with money, or you've had with money, and you know, what happened? What did you learn from it?
So I'll actually talk about my first money blunder. It was very early on. I think I was in university at the time, and I had friends, male friends, who were planning to get into the stock market, and I thought they knew what they were talking about, but it was really just the blind leading the blind, because I didn't know what was going on, which is very shameful, as I'm the child of a financier, but I didn't know what was going on. My friends were talking this big game about investing in the Nigerian stock market and the returns you could get. And then they bring this trader, you know, we have a meeting, and I decide to give him some of my hard-earned savings. And of course, it was a day I've never seen the guy. I mean, and the one thing I learned is, first of all, you've got to do your research. You've got to know what you're doing.
You have to go into business with people that you trust.
You have to go into business with people that you trust. You also have to do your research. I think that it's very dangerous to even try and play the stock market when you don't really understand how it works, because then how do you check your advisor even when they come back to you with poor information? You're literally at their mercy. So in my case, I mean, thankfully, in today's terms, it's not a massive amount of money, but at the time I was very pained to lose that amount of money.
Because it wasn't money that you could afford to lose at the time.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people make that mistake with the stock market. It's always about the returns, and we don't think about the losses that could, you know, you could incur in the process. Yeah. But you're right, you have to do your research, you have to do business with people that you trust. Yeah. So what's the money win that you've had? Like something you've invested in and you've gotten like amazing returns from. And you're like, yes, Tokini.
So I have invested in a number of things that have now appreciated significantly in value, but I haven't cashed out on that value. And in fact, it lies in my art collection. There are a lot of people that come to my office and they see my art collection, and I also have it at home. And they're always like, oh, I love that, I want that, I want that. Now, what they don't know is that those pieces have appreciated tremendously since I bought them. I'm talking by like a factor of 8 to 12. And they were not bought on the cheap. So I'm very pleased to know that even from early on when I was collecting, there was a sort of a clever decision-making process.
So you had some kind of strategy.
Exactly, that enabled me to identify those kinds of artists.
The next question I was going to ask you is, what is your smart money mantra, your money philosophy? The one thing that you absolutely have to do when it comes to your money.
So, do I have it sort of as a brilliantly worded mantra? I'm not sure, because I actually spent my entire life hearing two things. And my mom would be saying this in my ear, my dad would be saying the other. And the first one is, money doesn't grow on trees, money doesn't grow on trees. And they were constantly yelling that at me. And then the other one was, cut your coats according to your cost. And they were, I mean, my entire childhood was spent with these things just being thrown at me the entire time. But for me, I think it's not even just a money mantra, it's almost just the way I live my life, which is really cutting my coat. Like, there are things that, for example, my friends are able to do because they have been working in oil and gas. I've been working in the creative sector. They are investing in property. I'm not yet there. I find that not many people in our generation are comfortable with deciding that they don't have to keep up with the Joneses. And that's generally what's been my sort of mantra and philosophy. It's that we will all eventually get to where we're getting to. But I tend to live quite conservatively just to ensure that I'm really living within my means. So this is why, for example, when it comes to the investments, I partake in investments that I know that, first of all, they're quite, well, risk-proof is never the case, but you know what I mean. They're quite low risk. I'm also investing in an asset class that I understand as well, which is art. I'm not doing yet the very lavish things I want to be able to do in the future, because I believe in building, I believe in saving, I believe in investing. And then when there is the sort of the extreme excess and surplus, that's the time to splurge.
I love it. I think it's great that people our age can find ways to live like that, because I think that when it comes to money, like you said, this generation is not self-aware enough. We're too swayed by what the next person is doing, and we forget that your income and the next person's income might not be the same thing, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're poor, it doesn't mean you're less, it just means you can't afford certain things right now. And I like to say that, you know, everyone's journey is different. Your blessings are different, your obstacles are different, and you just have to own that. And I hope that we're raising the next generation to understand that you don't have to spend lao to be somebody. Do you get what I mean? Like, just focus on your craft and you'll get there eventually. So final question. We like to ask all our guests, if you hammered 1 billion naira, how would you spend it? How would you invest it?
Okay, let me throw a question back at you. What is 1 billion naira in dollars?
Because so you only think about this stuff in dollars.
No, because when I hear 1 billion naira, I'm like, okay,
I think it's about 3 million. I think it's just under $3 million.
Okay, I was hoping 1 billion naira. It was like $10 million. What would I do with $1 million? I think I would do two things. I'd carve out like a chunk for my conservative side, so the investment, the saving. Then I would go and buy a beautiful property. I don't think I would buy that property in Nigeria, actually. I think I would buy that property somewhere overseas.
Where? England, New York?
So not England. Funnily enough, I think I'd buy it in Senegal.
Oh.
I think I would buy like a beautiful beachfront, like incredible villa, or maybe one like, because Senegal can be a bit like hilly in a sense. So one on like a hilltop. Maybe I would invest in like a fractional private jet scheme so that I could be flying
all
between Lagos
over
and Dakar. But that $3 million doesn't go that.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Why don't you give me like 10? Give me $10 million.
But that's a really pretty nice dream, you know, to have. Buy a beachfront property in Senegal. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about ArtX and how you've been able to monetize this platform. What are the revenue streams and what's the cost structure?
So we have, I'd say, 3 revenue sources with ArtX. The first is exhibitors. All of the galleries that you see exhibiting at the fair, they do pay exhibitor fees. The second is corporate sponsorships, because this, at the end of the day, is a very aspirational platform. So we have a lot of the best of corporate Nigeria and even international brands and companies wanting to affiliate their brands with the project. And we tend to create very sort of customized and tailored properties for each of our sponsors within the ArtX platform. And then the third is also ticket sales to the event. We haven't typically charged very much because we've always wanted as many people as possible to come to the fair. But from this year, we will sort of increase those amounts gradually.
How much does it cost to put the fair together?
That's
give us so what are the kind of things that you spend money on?
I mean, first of all, it costs a fortune, considering that this is a temporary experience. The most expensive things we're paying for example, are our venue. You know, most people come to the Civic Center where we do this and they know that it's open for 3 days. We're actually there for an entire week setting up. So imagine taking up the entire Civic Center for that amount of time. It is very expensive. Then building the fair, you know, you see artwork on walls. It's not Civic Center's walls. We build walls, we build lights, we put wiring in. So that's very expensive as well. And then we fly in international speakers. We have an international curator, insurance costs. It's a pretty hefty mission, I have to say. So,
what about the artists who are coming from outside of Nigeria, maybe other African countries? Are you paying for their...
No, we're not, because usually we're dealing with the galleries. So the galleries will cover their own travel costs. It's only if an artist is being invited by us directly, maybe we're curating a project with them or we're asking them to come and speak at our event, then we would cover their travel costs.
So do you get like the representatives from like the Sotheby's and the Bonhams to come?
A lot of them come. In fact, they're always here. So the Africa director for Sotheby's, the Africa director for Bonhams, they come to the fair each year. We've also had them speak in the past. We have very large museum organizations, the Tate from the UK, for example, one of the Smithsonian museums from the US, the Zeitzmocker in South Africa. They have all sent curators.
What was that process like? Like the first time you were going to do ArtX, getting them to come on board, you know, a new platform. What was that process like?
You know, if I'm honest with you, it was such a mission. And it was something that we actually did in 9 months, the first one. Literally from saying, gonna do this to actually getting it done. It was just a total blitz. And the first year, I had to put a team together because I recognized that, yes, this is my vision, but I can't deliver on it alone. And there was just so much to be done.
How many people?
So I had a team of 4. A number of them were part-timers, some were full-timers, but we were doing all of the research and all of the initial conversations needed. And then I brought on board an artistic director, a very experienced curator.
So did the person have like the connections as well?
Yes, so she was the one that sort of introduced the concept to foreign galleries, introduced the concept to foreign museums, and therefore made them understand that this was a very serious project to take seriously. But when it came to, for example, dealing with corporate Nigeria, that was all on me. Dealing with the marketing, dealing with all of the event logistics and production.
How did you get them to be excited about something like art? Because, you know, we have so much amazing art in Nigeria and Africa in general, but it's hard to get corporate sponsors usually excited about something that They don't really understand.
So, you know, as you said that, I just had flashbacks to 2016, and I had flashbacks to sitting in these rooms. I remember there's no bank I haven't been to. There's no bank. I know there are different security guards, the ones where you touch the screen to enter, the ones where you write in a book. I've been everywhere. And I just have flashbacks to being in these rooms, talking to 8 people. It's their lunchtime. You're pitching this project to them, showing them not even real photographs. You're showing them mock-ups, and everybody just looks like they want to sleep. And by the time I'm done talking, I'm thinking, did that even register? And then you'll be amazed, Arese. I mean, literally every single meeting this happened, one person would just, the person that looked the most bored, in fact, would now just be like, actually, you know, my son is always drunk. And in fact, I think this thing can be really good. And what was so amazing was people who this was sort of outside of their ordinary, they instantly understood that for very many people, a platform like ArtX could be really engaging. So, in fact, when we were there was never any company that said this is a bad idea, we don't like it. It was always just a really good idea,
but we don't have
we
the
would
budget
love to support it, but actually you're coming quite late in the year, we don't have the budget, or this is what we have, can you accept it? Very rarely did we get an outright no, bad idea, go home. So it was interesting because a lot of these people didn't have the culture of art appreciation. They weren't really going to museum shows, but when presented with the idea, they were very curious to see it realized. So we've benefited tremendously from committed sponsors over the years.
That's amazing. How many sponsors would you say that you have in general?
In year 1, we had 4 sponsors. By year 2, 2017, we had 10 sponsors.
Wow.
And this year, we now have a number of companies that have reached out to us directly to say they want to be part of the platform. So it's very exciting because it shows that when you are sort of committed to delivering to your very best ability, because that was what I did. In my first year, even though we didn't raise as much money as we wanted, I waited until we got to a point where the funds we had raised were close enough to the total budget we needed, and it was a gap that I could plug personally, because I wanted to ensure that we would deliver on what we had promised and actually go beyond expectation. And once we did, people were the ones knocking on our doors.
On your door. So create something of value, and eventually, you know, people who were not believers before will become believers. I'm inspired by your hustle. When's the next ArtX?
So the next ArtX Lagos fair opens on the 2nd of November and will run until the 4th of November. It sounds like it's far away, but we have a lot to do between now and then.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
That's a really insightful episode from Tokini Peterside of ArtX. 3 takeaways from our interview were: 1, master your craft. If you want to become a successful and profitable artist, it's important for you to hone your skills. A lot of Nigerian artists who have gone on to be successful on a global stage have spent a lot of time and money getting degrees and studying with prominent artists so that they can get better at their craft. 2, art is a viable investment. Tokini talked a lot about the art collection that she's been able to build over time. Her personal collection, which she bought for hundreds of thousands of naira, that have now become way more profitable, in the millions. The third thing she talked about was live within your means, which seems to be a struggle in this generation because we live for instant gratification. But we do need to start understanding that everyone's journey is different. We have different blessings, we have different obstacles, we have different incomes and different responsibilities. So it's really important to live below your means. Thank you for watching this episode of The Bridge. See you next time.